Those big chrome horn rings, you used to just cut your thumbs off. The steering shaft was fixed, so it just harpoon you. The metal dashes whack your forehead open. It was bad. It was gnarly.
Wow.
The car, inside the car, was worse than the accident.
Yeah, you think about it, like back in those days, they didn't even really have like much for crumple zones or anything.
Like nothing.
When you hit,
took all of it.
Like,
you are like the crumple zone.
Yeah.
Just give it a little taste.
Sounds so wrong.
Welcome back to another episode of Modify with TrickFactory Customs. If this is your first time watching, my name is Elvis.
Tim?
I'm Rob.
And we're a custom automotive shop based here in Vancouver, British Columbia. And on this episode, we are going to be talking about... Give me a second. On this episode...
What are we speaking about?
He's in charge of production.
Yeah. I'm the whole production team.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about, were cars built better back in the day? We've all heard the saying, they don't make them like they used to. I try to use my country accent. That was very terrible.
No,
You're straight out of Kentucky, man. You should have it dialed right in.
I know. I used to live in Kentucky, for those of you that do not know. And so, yeah, before I moved to California. So there's a lot of contrast. And then I'm from Nigeria. So it's
Is there any Kentucky-isms?
Oh, they do say some weird words like...
Because I saw something on TikTok. It was like from Appalachia. They had very specific...
I mean, there's different words. Like they say wash instead of like wash.
Like a wash. That was one of the Appalachian ones. That's a washcloth.
And then they say like in a coon's age. Like, I ain't seen you in a coon's age.
Didn't we Google that?
We looked it up.
Googled it. What did it mean?
How old a raccoon lives? I think it's like a few years, 12 years or something.
7 years?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
So there's a few of those type of sayings.
Yeah. Coons.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you in 7 years.
I know. Yeah, it's just like a long time no see for the most part. But so I love Kentucky, man.
Fried chicken?
Yeah. Wow, it's because I'm black. I'm kidding.
No, because of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh, I just backed you into a corner.
I see how it is.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yes, so on this episode, like I mentioned, we've all heard the saying is they don't build them like they used to.
Thank God.
We're gonna talk about if that's a good thing or a bad thing, and are classic cars really built better than modern cars, or the opposite?
No.
So it's gonna be interesting. So with that said, let's get started. How is it going? What's happening?
What is happening?
Aston Martin just came today.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. The DB5.
Right after we talked about British cars sucking.
He come rolling in and he's got his arms up. It's like, man, you guys better pay attention to who's buttering your bread around here. As he drops off his Aston Martin, that was pretty awesome timing. It's pretty funny.
DB4.
Yep.
Yes. So dropping it off for some maintenance and things.
Step van bumper thing.
Oh, yes. Step
Prepping
van.
for a chopper show this weekend. So we got to go drop a couple of bikes off actually right after we're done this.
Nice.
Skylark stuff's been happening too.
stuff's
So
been happening.
A bunch of stuff
Making
arrived
waves
for the
in that.
Skylark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just had a really good meeting with the client about that. So we have some pretty solid direction where we're going to be going with that too. So that's pretty exciting.
Looks like that's our SEMA 2024 build.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
So we
Yeah.
we need a place to put it. So if anybody's got a spot for us, let us know.
Does Toyo take old cars like that or no?
Yeah, they have, but this is a little too high-end resto mod for them, I think.
What? What does that mean?
Well, it's not interesting. Stan does an amazing job of curating very interesting vehicles.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And I think this is very much like your standard high-end resto mod. So I don't know if it would be a good fit for them.
So that was a big news. Yeah. SEMA 2024. We're going to push to
Skylark.
do the Skylark.
Are we doing Euroho things? A Lamborghini or Chevy Tahoe body swap, in case you guys do not know.
Where we're
announce
taking it?
or no?
Oh, we're taking it to Moab.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're taking it there.
Yeah.
No,
That's
it's
going to
going
be
for
fun.
sure.
But we're going to have we'll probably have a couple of local outings as an experience, sort of just to see if anything might break. before we travel across the country.
So yeah, we might take it to the flats at Stave.
Yeah.
Which is like a local spot. So maybe we'll make a weekend of that. And then Moab. I don't think it's going to do well there, but we're taking it anyway.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I just thought about something. If we're taking it to Moab, why don't we also just take another Tahoe just in case we need to rob parts? So, interswappable.
Maybe we'll get a Tahoe to tow it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Just in case you're like, oh, just swap parts easily. And that way we're not stuck in the middle of the desert. So
I think we have enough parts that we could actually take spares with us.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
And if there's anybody out there listening or watching this, and they want to be a part of the Euroho experience with us, and they want to help us make it Moab ready, hit us up.
Yes.
Yeah, even if it just means advice.
Yeah. Advice goes a long ways.
But we'd rather have money.
I know.
We can buy advice with money.
Oh my gosh. So with that said, we're going to dive right into the podcast. Were classic cars or were cars built better back in the day or no? I have some points here, but before we dive into the actual points, what are your thoughts, Tim?
I'm going to say Rob?
No. Why?
Because they were simpler, which people might tend to gravitate towards more on a personal ability level, but they're not better. There's no way they're better.
Yeah, I think you have to look at it from a couple different perspectives. I mean, they were, like you said, they were simpler. They were built simpler. The materials that they chose back in the day were a little bit more,
rudimentary.
I mean, more basic. Like, if you think about, like, we're in a kind of a DIY sort of era, and a lot of people want to get their hands on and work on their own stuff, maybe fix it, modify it, do whatever. Well, the classic cars lend themselves a little bit easier towards that because of those material choices, welding, grinding, things like that. You can do that. Modern cars are a little bit more, I mean, there's a lot more composites in modern cars, a lot more, say, panel bond and rivet, manufacturing procedures, sort of just the standards. It's not very DIY friendly. Like, if you crash your car, it's a lot more of a major ordeal. And you got to have some legit knowledge and tooling
tools, really
to be able to do it nowadays. So cars nowadays technically are built significantly better than they ever were.
Oh yeah,
like significantly
to do their job
in every way. But if your perspective, if your goal is to be able to be hands on with your car, you can't beat a classic car. The simplicity. And the user friendliness, the sort of, get your hands in there kind of thing that lends itself to a classic car.
Yeah, I don't think modern cars are built from an enthusiast perspective.
Yeah, that is so true.
Like, I don't think they want you in there at all.
That's so true.
Like, you can't even check your own oil anymore, like at all.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything that's really intended to be serviceable.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like the days of, even doing your own oil change in some cars, it's not even
a procedure.
That thing is
like, it's a major thing.
Yeah. It's so interesting now because I was looking at, I feel like I was reviewing, I think it was a McLaren. I forgot what McLaren it was. But like even the progression of McLaren from the 12C to now the 720S or whatever, they literally, like you said, they don't even let you check your fluid. Like, I think, no, you can check your fluids, but that's the extent of stuff that you can do.
I know why.
Why?
Want to know why?
Why?
I'm going to say one word, and both of you will also know why.
Okay.
Bill.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is why things have progressed.
Let's just say some people should not put their hands on.
No.
Bill is very hands-on, but he doesn't. Everything that I've ever had to fix is because he touched something he shouldn't have touched. So McLaren is probably naturally evolved in the same way. It's like, please stop fixing it because it isn't broken. Like,
and if you guys are like, who's Bill? He's a guy that
he's a customer. He's a great guy, but he likes to tinker. But he's usually tinkering with things he doesn't understand, and then I got to go put them back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because he's from an old world. He's small block Chevy sort of time,
Yes.
way back in the day.
But then he's gotten annoyed with small block Chevy things, so he wanted fuel injection and electronic ignition and all these things, but he thinks you still handle them in the same way that you did then, so he's trying to tinker and move, and he gets neighbors involved, and next thing you throw in, the thing doesn't even run. And I got to go back and be like, Bill, what did you do? Stop touching it. Like, if you just leave it alone, it's fine. Oh, well, I just wanted to do this. And you're like,
No.
Okay. So McLaren, there's somebody at the McLaren, it's like, oh man, make it so these guys can't touch this thing.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like McLaren is also like, I think you think of the price of all these things, and if anything goes wrong, it's so much.
Yeah, but they've been doing, like, I think Germany got way ahead of it. Like Porsches, you can't check your oil. You got to use your key.
Yeah.
My Mercedes, the same way. It doesn't have a dipstick. You got to use, it's all electronic. They don't want
my
you in there.
BMW is same thing too. You can't touch the oil, which I'm like, I've honestly thought about just drilling a hole in the oil pan.
Oh my gosh,
Threading in
Elvis.
a little dipstick, because sensors can fail, and it happens all the time, which is why I'm like, like there are, sure, modern cars are amazing and all that, but sometimes they make the simplest things so much more difficult, like checking your oil. Like, why do they have to give you an electronic
Because
checker?
in their mind, if you get your car's oil changed on its proper service intervals, you should never have to check it. Because it's going to be what it needs to be every 3 months, 6 months.
That's true. What's that McLaren that didn't have an oil pressure sensor?
all of them.
Is that all of them?
Yes.
Because we were just talking about that recently, and I'm not sure what it was, but I was like, that is the stupidest manufacturing thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I know.
And just wipe an engine out because of it didn't know when
I think there's
shut itself
other
off.
fail safes, but
Yes, there
it comes
are.
when you start tuning them and messing with them.
Oh, yeah.
So you get no real heads up. It's by the time you realize it's too late.
Way too late.
Ah.
Yeah.
So it's like they have oil level sensors and all that kind of stuff, but if you throw a rod through the side of the block, then that's it.
No, it's game over anyway.
Yeah.
It's game over anyways. Generally, by that time, the problem is you're probably already cooked anyways.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. And so I have some talking points here. I did
Okay.
some research, but one of the points that I wrote down was the build quality and materials. So build quality then versus now, which is better or built for higher tolerances?
I think modern stuff, I think there's a transition period as they were adding new materials into it and trying new materials from, like, say, I don't know, late 70s to like early 90s was a really bad time for cars. Like the plastics they use suck.
So bad.
All kinds of composites, adhesives, new primers, all this kind of stuff. So that was a really bad time for cars. Would give it like a really bad name. But now shit is so good. Like the fit and finish on cars now, like even your most average car, you get like a Mazda and you're like, damn, this thing is nice.
It's pretty nice.
Whereas a Mazda in the 80s was, oh man,
So bad.
Like you're getting inside of a wash bucket or something. It's just all plastic. And hard, squeaking, creaking. Yeah, it wasn't good.
Dash cracks all the time.
You look at like what 80s Chevrolets, everything is broken.
Everything.
Every bolt, because they surface mounted a bunch of stuff, is all cracked around the holes. The plastic's ultra brittle. It's terrible. You can't even
Yeah.
touch it.
And they always had some fucking squeak that you could never,
Yeah,
ever
because it's plastic on
find
plastic.
or resolve.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, man.
Yes.
Chevy square bodies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Camaros, Corvettes is still like that era is by far the shittiest interiors ever made.
But I think it also depends on the manufacturer for the most part. Like, because back then I know, like we talked about British stuff last week, but things like all the wood stuff for like high end, like Aston, Rolls Royce, Bentley. No, Bentley in the 80s was a little bit questionable, but for the most part, like Rolls Royce, Bentley, all those high end manufacturers used real wood. Where did all the real wood go? You never see real wood anymore.
I think it's just too easy to replicate it without all the headaches.
Yeah. I think that definitely is the biggest factor in why it's not used anymore.
Like you can make
about
fake wood that will last forever.
And then there's cars out there that still have it, but I mean,
Yeah.
those are really, really luxurious cars.
Yeah, you're getting into like 6 figures to get back into the real wood era.
Which is interesting. Also, speaking of like spending extra money, this is like talking about like interior build materials, but leather versus wool. Back in the day, I heard, I don't know how true this is, you guys tell me, but leather was cheaper than like, they used to give you like cloth seats or wool or whatever, all of that.
Yeah.
That was like the base option. And leather was like the leather was the base, was the cheapest, right?
Maybe in those cars, like Rolls Royces, Bentleys, and that kind of thing of the era. They used a lot of wool, even in their carpets.
Yeah.
Like we use it from time to time, but it's so thick, it's hard to, you can't really shape it to anything.
I mean, I'm just theorizing. Probably because of manufacturing, like
But
new materials. They probably had a hard time like making that wool synthetic materials.
Well, like mass
whereas leather,
producing
I mean,
them?
it is
Leather, and you look at the quality of the leather in a lot of the British cars that we come in that have original stuff, it was not nice leather. It would be on par with what we consider like distressed leather now.
Yeah.
And that was new, like big cracks. You look like your seat cushions like wrapped in ball sack. Like nobody wants that. Now it's smooth. Like you get in a new Benz, Napa is so smooth, man.
But I don't know. I feel like that distressed look is coming back. It's one of those like trends that I feel like is going back. Like distress just looks.
Yeah, because it's low maintenance.
Nice.
Trying to maintain that perfect Napa finish, man, it's expensive. You got to get your car detailed twice a week. But if you got some old cracky ball sack seat cushion, what do you got to do to it? You don't got to do anything. It's ready to go.
Yeah. But this also talks about build quality materials, but like durability and longevity. Like this, I'm trying to think of the Bel Airs. Was that metal or no?
Oh, inside of Bel Air?
Yeah,
the dash was metal.
Yeah.
Door tops were metal.
I just think that is so cool. That
Until you got a steering shaft through the chest. So I think things progressed from there.
I completely forgot about the steering shaft.
Yeah, there's a video on Netflix. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like those big chrome horn rings. You used to just cut your thumbs off. The steering shaft was fixed, so it just harpoon you.
Oh.
The metal dashes whack your forehead open. Right? It was bad. It was gnarly.
Wow.
The car, inside the car, was worse than the accident.
Yeah, you think about it, like back in those days, they didn't even really have like much for crumple zones or anything.
Like nothing.
When you hit,
took all of it.
Like,
you are
like,
the crumple zone.
Yeah. Now you look at cars and you want to talk about build quality. You see a car that looks like everybody should be dead. Like people even around it should be dead. And the guy's standing there looking at it, and you're like, how did he live through that?
And they walked away.
Yeah, like some of the accidents that you see now are just absolutely epic.
Insane.
And the fact that people walk away from them is crazy. Like that's a testament to build quality.
Yeah, that's so most definitely new cars are hands down like way better.
Yeah. For safety, yes, I completely agree. But does that also, the fact that they were built with cheaper materials for the most part, because the external body for the most part, there's almost no metal. I mean, apart from like the hood and like the spots that need to be steel, but like the bumpers are no longer like
Yeah,
metal.
but they still have an interior crash structure that's generally metal. I just think from an aesthetic standpoint, they've just hidden all that stuff away. Because you look again at the transition from like early 80s to 90s, where there was mandatory 5-mile-an-hour crash bumpers, and while they were trying to wrap their heads around it and transitioning that to cars, how ugly were they?
So ugly. So
it was
bad.
like, now it's like a solution to a problem. So you still have all that stuff. They just moved it inboard and then put a nice cover over it.
Yeah, because the Porsches, like the early Porsches, the 70s, 60s, beautiful. But then once you get towards the late 70s, early 80s,
where it literally had a shock absorber just poking out the front. Like,
disaster. It looks so bad. And so every time I see an SC from the 80s, I'm like, it's so bad. And so the solution, like a lot of people frown about it, but like backdating some of these cars.
Well, I think that's why a lot of it happens to those cars.
Yeah.
Because the bumpers are just so ugly. And their solution to it, Porsche, I'm usually 100% behind. But they didn't really put a lot of effort into it. Like the accordion bumpers with the shock absorbers. Like it's like they got told on Monday they needed to have it, and they had it done by Friday. Like they didn't put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah. Because you had an
I had an
SC, right? Yeah. So did you have those impact bumper looking?
I did. Yeah.
You left them there until you never changed them?
No.
Oh, yeah.
The big, like 8-inch long accordions on the side.
But had I kept that car and I actually followed through kind of like what my dream was, because I bought that car because I was going to RWB it. So, I mean, that would have done away with all that.
Yeah, that would
hideous
be cool. Yeah.
accordion crash structure stuff.
Yeah. And then we've touched on this before, but simplicity versus complexity, because back in the day, cars were simple, like very simple. Even in the manual, that's a testament to how simple they were. In a manual, they literally walked you through everything, dismantling the bumper, tuning your carburetors, like every little thing. And today, they just tell you not to eat the battery.
Yeah, don't eat the battery. Yeah,
that's important though. Yeah. You know that at least one person ate the battery because they had to make that.
I mean, that makes you question humanity a little bit, doesn't it?
Yes. Which is, it's also, this is probably another topic for just humanity in general, but things have gone downhill so fast.
Yes.
I feel like.
Now they don't trust you to do anything.
No, nothing.
Now you got run flats, you got inflation. They won't even let you change your own tires now. They don't want you touching anything.
Let's just say, even if you look at like modern infotainment, they're not like, ooh, change the tire. They're like, see dealer or dealer immediately.
The dash tells you. You don't even have to get the manual out. And dude, it's like, I just saw something. They pulled up to like a propane filling station. He's trying to put air in his tire with the and the guy comes up and is like, you probably don't want to do that. What? And they're like, well, we can't seem to get it to work. And he's turning the brass thing that you put in. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
People, man.
That was the person that was trying to.
I would have helped him.
Man.
Have a nice job.
Natural selection at its finest.
You would have heard from me for sure. I'm like, Elvis, you're going to need 4 SD cards and meet me at the gas station immediately.
Start filming.
We're going to follow this guy.
That is so bad. Oh no. Yes. No, it's even like, but I feel like even for base regular things, this is again also another topic, but it's just like how we've lost the art of simple maintenance, like even tire pressure checking. Like you see those jokes where it's like people don't even know what PSI is. Like they are like, oh, should I just fill it to 100? Like the maximum?
Yeah, they're trying to get it's like I'm trying to get it to 100 and it won't go. I can only get my tire 76% full.
So again, that
machine is broken.
It's just so interesting, and it's just telling of where we're headed. But that's like another topic. But like ease of maintenance and repair. Like back in the day, they left the engine open. Like you could see the engine, even in regular commuter cars. You could open the hood, you could see the engine, check your oil change. Like, but now they use plastic to cover everything. Like they don't want you in there. And I'm like, why?
Yeah, but they're so much better. Like if you think about what's the service interval now, is normal is like 15,000 kilometers. Back in the day, you had to work on your car probably once a month.
That's true, yeah, because of how frequently they were.
Yeah, you had to make constant adjustments as the motor is literally breaking down. You had to bring it back up and adjust everything. You don't have to do that now. You don't have to do anything. And so many of those fine adjustments are built into the actual part itself.
Yeah.
Like self-adjusting, they're hydraulically loaded to do all these different things. It's like you don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that's another good part of cars. But like, I don't know. I'm still kind of, the first time, I've never bought a brand new car, but of all the cars that I've bought that have those plastic things, the first thing I do is just rip it right off.
Yeah, like, but most of them are ugly.
I know, the wiring is just all over the place.
Yeah, they're not good looking. They're meant to have those covers on them.
Yeah. Okay, so that makes sense. And then safety, we've talked about safety and safety
There's
standards.
no comparison in safety. Nobody can contest that. Like, that's not even a conversation.
Yeah.
I think some of the safety of some of these cars is just absolutely mind-boggling.
It's crazy.
Like some of what you see that people walk away from, not like 3 weeks in the hospital, like standing next to their car going, holy shit, and it's like nothing but a seat and a steering wheel left, and you're like, that's wild.
But is that a good, I mean, it is a good thing, yes, but is that also not a good thing just because I feel like people would not be as concerned if they got into a wreck because
Well,
they
I
know
think
they'll
that's
be
part
fine.
of it. I think people are doing shit that they wouldn't, hoping their car is going to save their lives.
Yeah, you see it on Facebook all the time. Like people driving like, I don't even know. Like they don't have a head at all. And they like make all these turns and all of these things. And they're like, oh yeah, the car is going to save me. It's fine. Same thing with Teslas. Like
Tesla drivers are by far the worst. I almost got hit by 3 Tesla drivers in 1 week. Like, I think the Tesla thing is as amazing as it is as a technology, is like people have definitely overly adapted to it.
Yeah, because you assume that it's going to save you.
Yeah, it's going to take care of you.
It has
And then
sensors, cameras.
We have a Tesla specialist facility up the street. How many Teslas are there?
Oh, it's
the lot's full
overwhelmed.
all the time, like nonstop.
Yeah.
And then based on my experiences of Tesla drivers and Tesla drivers, it does not. This is not an EV conversation. This is Tesla drivers
specifically.
They're just blind. They don't even look anymore.
Bad, yeah.
I had one cut me off. She didn't even realize. Like, almost killed me and my whole family. And she didn't even look so that I could be like,
Did not know what she did.
completely oblivious, just out causing absolute chaos.
Yeah.
I had one back out across 2 lanes right in front of me, not paying attention.
Oh my gosh.
Like, so, man.
It's so annoying. Yeah, I used to say Tesla drivers were the new BMW drivers that you used to use indicators.
Times 10.
But yeah, multiply them.
Because you see them, they don't look. They're just like
they hope the car
changing
sees
lanes.
it.
You don't see them turn their
Yeah.
head. You don't, nothing. Like, I could not trust that shit to that level.
No.
Yeah. So I feel like as much as it's been a benefit to safety and all of these things and sensors and all of that, I still feel like it's also a drawback because people do not pay attention.
Yeah, but I
anymore.
don't think it makes cars worse. I think it makes people worse.
Yeah.
The cars are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that you have that as a failsafe is amazing.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
But I think people, just like we always do, take advantage of it, and it's not the best.
Yeah. Yeah. You just get complacent with that stuff and you just completely, it's like you just forgot like your whole lifetime of driving.
I've done it.
Oh yeah.
I almost gave myself whiplash one time
How?
because I had my Ford that I used to park in my underground in my building, and I'd back up and be like doot 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 doot, and it was like at a foot, it goes solid, perfect. Did it every day for 2 years. I drove the Dodge home one time, had no backup sensor.
No.
Backing up.
No.
Bang! And I hit it at like a good speed, man. Because I used to just whip past my spot and then whoop, and then do 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 done. The Dodge, I just whip, bang.
Like parking sensors, again, as much as or as awesome as they are, like
I
it's
got used to them.
Yeah, you get used to them so much, and it's like, does your Porsche have backup sensors?
No.
Does your Mercedes have backup sensors?
Yes.
Yeah, I just think that is a huge part because I've almost done the same thing too. So, like, I think anytime I drive the Genesis, I'm like, yeah, this thing has parking sensors, sick. And I drive the Datsun, and I just completely forgot. I'm like, oh, and then oh, that's so close to the wall. And so it's almost happened to me a few times.
Yeah.
But then fuel efficiency / emissions. That is one good thing I think.
Transition period
huge.
that created all that bullshit. Transition period, same.
Yeah.
Early 80s, all that emission stuff.
So bad.
No horsepower, shitty gas mileage, all that kind of stuff. Now it's insane.
Yeah, I think I was looking at a Top Gear video from a few years ago, but they were making fun of American cars, and it's like, how can you get, like, you see the engines for this like 20-foot Cadillac, 8-liter V8,
And it makes 140 horsepower. Yeah, out of 8 liters.
I know. So that part is very true. The fuel efficiency part is insane. Corvettes are like hitting like 30 miles per gallon or something crazy.
So crazy horsepower numbers.
So yeah, that is pretty cool. Although the cylinder deactivation thing is always a disaster. So that's
It's
also
never
the part.
worked, man. Even when it started in Cadillacs, it was never good.
Oh, it was in Cadillac?
Yeah, early Cadillacs, I think, is where they debuted it. They had like the 468 or whatever it was. And it's still junk, man.
Yeah.
They need to let it go.
Do they still use it in their new stuff?
Yeah, new
think they
pickups
do,
and stuff they have.
Oh, I thought they got rid of it.
Yeah.
Did they? I don't know.
I don't know. I might be wrong, but I don't know.
I know lots of people delete it right away.
Yeah.
Because it causes lots of problems.
It's just bad. Yeah, it's terrible. And what about driving experience? As you can, if you guys are watching this on video, you see we have a Porsche 356 Roadster. They're called the Roadster, the convertible one.
Yeah. Speedster.
Speedster, thank you. And we have a modern Porsche GT3, 992 GT3. So do classic cars drive? Actually, this should be another episode. Ooh, that should be another. Maybe I'll save this point for another episode. But yeah, do classic cars drive better than newer cars? Because
I think they perform better, but I wouldn't say they drive better. I think that's probably the only part.
What's your definition of perform, though?
Just
faster, smoother.
New cars. Yeah, new cars.
But I wouldn't say they're better to drive.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think so. Anyways.
Well, I think that's based on how you define it. If your definition is I want to do 150 miles an hour, try to do that in a classic car, you'd be white knuckling and scared.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. It performs
but like a new
way
car, you
better.
can do it like with one finger on the steering wheel.
Yeah, I would not want to go 150 miles per hour in a Porsche 356.
No,
can it even do 100 miles per hour?
You would have to drop it from an airplane to get it to go that fast.
Yeah,
the thing had like 55 horsepower, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, we touched on this in podcasts in the past about how the classic car experience, you get the feel of joy and you know the love of the drive is at a much slower speed.
Yes.
So there is that. I mean, so depends on how you define what is better or not. Like if you want to just have a good experience and not like put your life on the line, like really hardcore. Because
going back to you again, Rob, you've had two Porsches, the 9, or I don't know if more than two, but the SC, the 80s SC versus your
my 996. Yeah.
Which one would you say, I don't know, made you feel better when you were driving?
Which one? The 996 is a far greater car in every way. Every
so there was no time you've been driving like, oh yeah, the 911 SC, like you ever thought going back?
And actually, like, because I mean, when I was a young man, when I was 13, that's when I fell in love with Porsches. I was like, I gotta have one of these before I die. I was fortunate enough, I had a classic SC. And so I drive my 996 now daily, and I don't think I want a classic Porsche ever again.
That's crazy. What about
like, you? I mean, I still have this romantic idea of having a 964.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because it has the classic look, but it has coilovers. It's a better driving car. Like you've driven one.
Yes.
You know.
Oh, so good.
But compared to a 996, that 964 is still going to be a pile of shit. No, yeah, for real though, because I mean they came a long ways. The 996 is a modern enough car, but it still has classic vibes. I mean, I could talk all day about
right in the middle.
I could talk all day about it, but
I would say
it's an entirely
that era of pretty much all cars. Like the mid 2000s is when it was the best.
Oh yeah.
Because even my AMG, I love it. Like I've had an opportunity, I can buy a new car if I want to, but it's perfect because it's not overly electronic inside. It's still got steering feel, suspension, power. It's a little bit angry.
Yeah.
Like it's not too smooth. It's not too perfect. It's got tons of torque, and it's like it's perfect. I get in new cars and they're just too smooth. There's too much shit going on. It's like sensory overload. So I'm not one of the guys that's all the way this way either. It's like that's like the sweet spot is like early 2000s.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think I remember Doug DeMuro talking about that maybe, of starting to see even on Cars and Bids website. I don't know if this is a telling of like generations like changing or being more interested, but like people were asking him of like, what's the most popular car, or what decade or what age is the most popular car to sell, and like, well, for like appreciating prices. And you would think, oh, 70s, 80s, 50s cars, but no, like for the most part on his site, it's 2000s, like early 2000s stuff. Like he said, exactly the same point. Like they didn't have too much technology as we see all the cars today, and they were reliable enough because it was also after the smog and all of that crap in the 80s and 90s that you had to deal with. And so I completely agree.
Yeah, I would say 100% too. I think the 90s was kind of a shit period.
Yeah.
Plus,
like there was some pretty cool style, but there was the electronics just were not up to snuff.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what you were talking about. Like you open the hood on my CLS, it's all motor.
Yeah.
It's amazing looking. Like you still have all that before Like the new one, just big plastic engine color. Like it still had all those vibes. So yeah, I feel like that is the perfect era.
Yeah.
Porsches, Mercedes, even BMWs.
Yeah.
E36s, E46s. That was a great time for all cars.
Yeah.
All cars.
And now they've transitioned out of that, and it's too much. Like I got in a 991, and
it's a lot.
It's too much, man. It's too much shit. Like
Yeah,
I felt like I was getting in a racing sim. Like I don't know. It was weird. I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's like I want one of those, but
I want it based on its
desire
numbers. But once I got in one, I'm just like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Like I would never say no to one.
I know.
Like of course not. Like I mean, if I had the means that I could just
buy it, yeah.
I don't even know if I would though.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take an Elvis stance on this.
Oh, okay.
And I'd rather have 3 or 4 2000s cars than a 991.
Yes.
As awesome as it is, but I want all mine to work.
Okay.
Not just have them, like they have to function.
Not just have them. Okay, well, that's where we differ. Mine don't have to function. Once I can look at them, sick.
Like I've had my CLS for like 8 years. I love that thing.
Yeah.
And like I get in new stuff and I get opportunity to drive new stuff and it doesn't do anything for me.
Have you been in the new CLS?
I've been in a newer CLS. I haven't been in the brand new one, but I've been in like an 18 and I didn't feel like it was, I don't like it.
Yeah, which is interesting too. I wonder what is happening because now they're doing 4-cylinders or something, right? The new 663 is a 4-cylinder with
4-cylinder turbo,
hybrid or turbo or something. I'm like, oh gosh, disaster. So definitely for even engine like performance, like all of that, I feel like the early 2000s, glorious. Glory days.
Glory days.
Yes.
Like 2000 to 2010. That decade, best decade for cars.
Yes, I completely agree. And then what about parts availability?
That's not the best.
Yeah, because
we're in a weird lull where a lot of stuff is like discontinued. I think they're sussing out what is going to make it to the other side, and then now aftermarket is going to start coming on. Because like a lot of that stuff you can't even get. Like even my car. And it's a 06. To me, it doesn't feel old.
But it's like
doesn't feel old, but it's 20 years old. It's like I can almost get collector plates for it.
I know, that's crazy to imagine. Like that is considered a classic car now. But parts, like you said, like they're getting harder to find. And
even the 190, it's taken almost 2 years to get a windshield for it.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy because I just watched the episode of Top Gear, and they were in they're doing the Dakar or something, and they're in some little village. It was all 190s.
Really?
Like the whole town was 190s.
Nice.
And I was like, why is it so hard to get a windshield?
Yeah.
There's hundreds of them.
That's so interesting. But so
it's not an easy thing.
It's not easy.
It's challenging to have one of those cars. And even that car is like a 92. And in my mind, that doesn't seem that old. I don't consider it a classic car by any means. Like classic car to me now is like 50
70s.
years old.
For me, it's like 70s. That's what I see.
Yeah, 70s. And that's a 50-year-old car.
Insane.
It's nuts.
Insane. But. Yeah. So availability of parts is huge. And it's like, that's also back then, do you think, because I feel like they shared more parts back then.
Which was easier.
Yeah.
Now there's too many model-specific parts.
Yes.
I think that makes it hard for anybody to have parts for this stuff. Whereas if you had a small block Chevy up until 87, it was all interchangeable all the way back to like 67.
Which is amazing. But also small block Chevys, I feel like, I was thinking of constant episodes. Small block Chevy versus LS, which one is better? But this one is for a different episode.
That's like a 3-minute podcast.
LS is better in every way. But just classic engines versus modern engines and all of that stuff. Like to dive into that would be pretty fun. But yeah, so parts availability back then, there was a lot more stuff. Standardization.
Cross-platform, I think, is what it was.
Yeah. And also back then, there was not as much standardization, so you had more individuality with cars. Like, for example, like how random Citroën, for example, had all their stuff, or like how very different this speedometer on one car goes this way, on another car goes the opposite, and like all of that stuff. I feel like there was less standardization for things.
The way things are supposed to be.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So I preferred, like, because I'm trying to think of, like, Oliver, for example, was just saying his, what's it called? The supercharger oil
Oh, the
thing
indicator that
on
actually just
the
send
Bentley.
in oil into the cab.
I'm like, that is just so cool, and you would never see that on a car today. I'm
That's
like,
not very practical, man.
it's still cool though.
Yeah, cool. But you think smelling like gas and oil out of a 69 Chevelle is bad? You're going to be wearing it coming out of that one. Yeah. That's why they had goggles and it was always...
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, in like 30s and all of that. Yeah.
They came out, looked like they just got back from a dog fight in World War II.
A lot of leather and everything. Yes.
Just spraying hot oil in your face.
Going back to fuel too and emissions and all of that, as much as we take it for granted now, I feel like emissions was huge, like terrible. It was so bad back in the day, because I remember stories and I've seen pictures from even in LA, like you couldn't see the sky. It was just polluted because there was no emissions in the 70s. And so that is one part that is so much better than today than it was back then.
Efficiency is not even close to what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So clean
And
air.
it's definitely necessary, regardless of how fucking redneck you want to be. It is definitely something that needed to be addressed.
Oh yeah, because I think people had like poisoning, carbon monoxide poisoning and all that crap.
Well, they used to get people pass out in like traffic jams and stuff because the air would get so thin.
Oh my
God.
Like
That's
California
so
and
bad.
stuff and their traffic jams. Can you imagine?
Yeah, the 405.
Yeah, you just get all sleepy and just...
Oh man.
Well, yes, those are pretty much the basic or the main points that we kind of had for our classic cars really built better than modern cars. What's the final consensus?
I don't think they are. I think they're built differently.
Yeah.
They're not built better.
Yeah, definitely differently. For styling wise, I prefer classic cars, obviously.
Well, classic cars were never designed to do what modern cars are.
No.
They weren't meant to drive as far. They weren't meant to drive as often. They were like, yeah, it's not even the same. They
It
weren't.
was an entirely different period. I mean, that's where cars came from. We've evolved from that. For the cars are so good now because we've evolved from learning the little things that needed to be addressed with the next version.
Like,
That's true.
I don't know if you thought about it then because I wasn't alive then, but you can get in any modern car and drive until you run out of land without any real consideration other than putting gas in it.
Yeah.
Like what?
That is true, though.
I don't think that
Yes.
was something like you would be adjusting valves 3 times before you got to Florida from here, I would think.
Yeah, when
Based
you think
on
about
elevation
it like that,
and-
And if you think of how little maintenance and effort people put in their cars and then how upset they get when they do have a problem, like they have so little problems that when they do have a problem, they act like it's the end of the world.
Yes, that's so true.
It's like, this thing's a piece of shit. It's like, when the last time you changed the oil? Like, I never changed the oil. What do you mean? Change the oil. Like, it's wild. Like, the intervals in which you have problems is pretty slight.
I was just literally thinking about it yesterday. I was driving. I was like, oh yeah, I haven't had a flat tire in a while. Or like all of these things. I was just like, oh yeah, I haven't blah, blah, blah. Changed oil in a while. I haven't done all these things in
All
a
you
while.
got to do is go and bring a trailer and look at those cars from that era. And the fact that you can have like a 60-year-old car with 50,000 miles. And then they're like, oh man, that was a lot of miles. Cars now have 200,000, 250,000. Like, there's no comparison at all.
Yeah, that's true.
Like the fact that you stopped driving this car at like 35, 40,000 miles because it started getting unreliable. And then now you have a Chev pickup that's got 500,000-600,000 kilometers on it. No comparison.
Yeah, very, very
yeah,
true.
it's testament to how much better they are.
So none of those
For sure.
cars made it to the 500,000 mile mark or kilometers, whatever you want to use, to see what kind of condition it would have been in.
Yeah.
It never made it there.
That's a good point. Yeah. So
But I love all that shit. But
Me too.
It's just
Me
not the
too.
best. You can't deny shit's got better.
Yeah,
It's
you
so
just
much
have
better.
to. You just have to sort of understand and sort of appreciate where they were, what they were all about, and just
I think half the fun in
You'd have to have the
driving
right
that old
mindset.
stuff is the fact of how dangerous it is.
yes,
Yeah.
the fear factor.
Yeah,
in
you're
it.
like, whoa.
It's huge.
yeah.
You look down, you're like, oh, 62 miles an hour. Like, you feel like you're doing warp speed, the ass ends hanging out, tires are screeching, you got all this feedback, and then, yeah, you're not going very fast.
As a good point to that, in my Datsun, anytime I drive that thing, I'm like, oh, I'm almost terrified of driving it because I'm like,
So fun, though.
if I get in a wreck, that's probably gonna be it. So That's always what I think about. When I was younger, I didn't really care, but now I'm like, oh shoot, it's probably going to be it if I get into a wreck. And so that's just a testament to new cars. You don't even think about safety when you're driving. You're like, oh, you just send it.
Yeah.
And so it definitely makes me drive a lot, I would say a lot better, just because I'm paying a lot more attention to everything around me and to everything on the dashboard of the car too. I feel like, yeah, I'm kind of in a middle-ish sort of.
Yeah, so the driving experience in a classic car is so much more involved.
Yeah.
You get
Visceral.
It is visceral.
I got
very
the drop
visceral.
visceral.
Yeah. And so with that said, I think that's it. Anything else?
Nope.
I think they're both good.
Yeah.
Classic cars were built really well. Modern cars are built just
Better.
Just better.
Yeah. And so with that said, we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.